You can own your own home, complete with its own refrigerator, television set, and clothes dryer.
Boy, here's real emancipation from old-fashioned chores.
Ah, America. Back in the 40s and 50s and even part of the 60s, we were unstoppable. While the rest of the world was recovering from all the drama, we were booming. The US really hasn't been as good as it was back in this time. And no, I'm not a boomer, so zip it. While there's large pockets in America that are absolute shitholes now, there's actually quite a few places where things are still pretty good. That's our focus today. The best states in the USA where you can live. These are the states where crime is lowest, where the schools are best, and where the economies are most reliable. Folks here have it better off than the rest of America does, at least on average. Sure, there's still trouble here. Nobody's perfect. You'll find crime and poverty and beat up communities in just about every state. But overall, as a whole, the states we're going to talk about are just better than the rest of the other states, collectively. Sort of. Mostly. So, you YouTube watcher you, get ready to get a little jelly, or proud, as we visit America's best states to live in 2020 and beyond. Okay, so to compile this list of the best states, we used two key metrics. One half was weighted by factors such as crime, cost of living, and local economies, and the other half was taken by polling Americans on where they would want to live and which states have the most state pride. Then I gave the answers to our little trolley friend here, and he's going to tell us the unbiased winners. Our first stop in make-believe land takes us to Maryland. Of course, a lot of people think of Baltimore when they think of Maryland, but only 1 in 10 Maryland residents lives in this hood. If you took Baltimore out of Maryland, it would probably be in the top 5 on this list at least. So what's so great about Maryland anyways? Well, besides having a really pretty coastline, its residents are the wealthiest in the nation, and property values are the 7th highest in the country. And 40% of people here have a college degree. While that certainly does not mean it's a great place to live, it shows that folks here are responsible, can prioritize, are organized, and can meet deadlines. JK, college degrees aren't as important as they once were. But college degree holders here in Maryland have made this the best state in America for science and technology. And the public schools here are top notch too. But give it up to Maryland for checking all the boxes in the money and success column, mostly. However, I have a feeling our metrics might be a little wacky because basing a ranking only on how rich people are or how smart they are just doesn't seem right to me. Let's continue. Montana, there we go. That's America right there. Sure, it's not the most exciting state you could visit, but boring isn't that bad, is it? This place is wide open, hombre, and it seems like the secret's out among all the people in the western half of the country. Californians, for instance, have discovered they can leave the chaos and overall ghetto-ness of the Golden State and head yonder, where they can buy a home with a lot of land and put their feet up and watch the buffalo roam.
Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam.
Numbers-wise, this certainly isn't the richest place we'll talk about, where average incomes for a family of 4 are about $56,000, which is a little below the national average. Homes here cost about $230,000, which isn't bad. And Montana has what's been called the fairest tax system in the USA, where there's no sales taxes, property taxes are far below average, and the rich pay more than the poor. Okay, button up, conservatives. According to polls across all political spectrums, a progressive state income tax was voted as the most fair in America. To cap it off, Montana ranked first in America for state pride.
Montana, Montana, glory of the West. Of all the states from coast to coast, you're easily the best.
That's Montana's state song. Which state is next? Hey now, Iowa. Looking good, looking good. Now, if you live in the state of Iowa and you're under the age of 20, you're probably rolling your eyes right now. But it could be a lot worse, Iowa kid. You could live in Nebraska. Here in Iowa, the economy is doing quite well, thank you very much. The Hawkeye State has the nation's 3rd lowest unemployment rate at a very attractive 2.6%. That's like nobody. Now, you might not be working at a big old fancy bank or rolling in the dough as a big hotshot executive if you lived here, but you'd be comfy. especially in your, on average, $150,000 house. Iowa is also relatively safe, ranking 14th lowest in both violent and property crimes. In terms of healthcare, the state's residents pay the 4th least amount for coverage. As such, most of its residents are covered. Now, we didn't measure this, but it's worth mentioning that Iowa also makes really tasty food. Bacon, hamburgers, chicken, corn, cereal, popcorn. But it's not just a farming state. Iowa was ranked by this relatively reputable source as the second best state for opportunity. That metric took into account educational attainment, cost of living, and economic equality. Some very big words. Here comes our trolley friend, looking so happy and shiny. Hey, Vermont, that's a cool state. You know what's mostly great about Vermont? The peace and quiet is. It's the 3rd safest state in all the land and the 2nd least violent of all. Among Vermont's safest cities, none had murders, and only a handful had any sort of theft or arson. Plus, half of Vermont's safest cities had 0 robberies. They make a lot of syrup here, and Ben & Jerry's ice cream is from here, 2 things I personally love to eat. Now, I've spent some time in Vermont. It's really pretty there, with big old mountains to hike in and ski in, and nearby Lake Champlain on which to bask in the sun and frolic your summer days away. And in Fairhaven, Vermont, their official mayor is a goat. Not as in greatest of all time, a real goat named Lincoln. Upon being proclamated as the city's official mayor, she pooped. She must be a liberal.
Gross. I would never want a goat for my mayor.
Oh, hi, Karen Mappy. Haven't seen you around in a while. Are you and Mappy, together still, or what?
Yes, we're fine. He understands my tendencies.
Yeah, you're a bossy little tramp. Little mismanagement. She didn't like that very much. And she didn't even have anything insightful to add to the research either. Moving on, we come to the great state of Minnesota. Minnesota's moving on up from our 7th spot last year. Why? Well, Minnesota has a pretty great economy to start. Actually, the state of Minnesota recently issued this creed. 1st in Fortune 500 companies per capita. 2nd strongest state in the nation. I think they mean strongest economy, not brute strength. 3rd best state to live in. We say 6th, but okay. 3rd in business startups, 7th overall for business, 10th in private companies. Wow, I had no idea you could toss the snow shovels aside and roll up your sleeves and jump right in economically up here. Minnesota's also the 7th healthiest state and tops in the US for high school graduation rates. And property crimes are the 10th lowest in the USA, which says a lot about their values up here in the Great White North where it's freezing for long stretches. Minnesota was actually voted as having the worst weather in America, at least during long winter months. I guess you can stay inside up here and stay warm. Maybe that's why the kids are all graduating high school. They're inside reading and doing homework. And another reason Minnesota is so awesome, they have penguins here. That's cool. Who doesn't love to watch penguins play?
There aren't any penguins in Minnesota.
There's not?
No, there aren't any penguins in the USA at all. Most of them live in Antarctica.
No penguins? We need penguins here. Our next trolley stop across America's finest states takes us to Connecticut. Bruce Jenner's from Connecticut. He or she would probably agree with this ranking. Anyways, you'd be hard-pressed to find a state with more haves and have-nots. While this is one of the wealthiest states overall, there are large swaths of this state where people are straight up struggling. The poverty level here is the 4th lowest in America, where only 1 in 10 people is really broke. But the gap between the rich and poor here is fairly evident when you dig deeper. In fact, Connecticut's 3rd highest when you look at the gap between the rich and the poor. Connecticut's 1%ers bring in 37 times more in annual salaries than their poor neighbors. However, this is supposed to highlight the good in these states. Let's get to that. Crime-wise, Connecticut's the 5th least violent, and it's 13th lowest for property crimes. If you look at the safest cities in America, the list is populated quite frequently with small Connecticut towns. Places like Ridgefield, Madison, New Canaan, Cheshire, Avon, Greenwich. Connecticut's number 3 for healthcare in the US, taking into account residents' access to healthcare and quality of care, so that's cool. It's a relatively pretty state, Connecticut is. Cute little beaches, lighthouses, scenic countryside, and beautiful fall foliage. It's no wonder why they chose Connecticut as a setting for the hit WB show Gilmore Girls, a show which I personally detest. Back out to the West Coast again we go, as we take a stop in the state of Washington. Now, Seattle's homeless crisis is a real mess that has no end in sight, so that's unfortunate. But check out the fancy numbers on Washington. 4th best for healthcare, fourth best for education, the third best economy, second for infrastructure. The aerospace industry, along with defense and military jobs, make it a hub for brainiacs, as does the state's booming tech scene. Of course, it's home to Amazon, Boeing, Starbucks, Microsoft, and other leading tech companies. And they grow a lot of apples too. 70% of our nation's supply. Who doesn't like apples? Except her. This state has the nation's best electrical power grid, powered naturally. In fact, the Evergreen State is the greenest state in the nation and hopes to be coal-free by 2025. Crime-wise, it isn't pretty. The only real knock on Washington is its large number of property crimes, where it ranks 5th worst. But Washington's an outdoor enthusiast's dream, with its geological diversity ranging from rainforests to deserts and mountains and a really pretty coastline. New Jersey ranks as our third best state in America, up 1 spot from last year. Good for them. It's the most densely populated state, which for many Americans is a bad thing, but it proves people want to live here. Incomes are second highest, only trailing Maryland. Only 12% of people here live in poverty. And if you thought New Jersey was dangerous, well, then you're wrong. At least overall. Sure, places like Camden and Newark are armpits, but as a whole, New Jersey is actually the 5th safest state. Huh. In terms of sex appeal, though, this state isn't so highly touted. A very obscure and probably not very reliable website once called New Jersey residents the 48th least sexiest in America, behind only Nebraska and Alaska. The sexiest state is Illinois. Okay, this research is obviously flawed. In terms of state pride, New Jersey residents are the 7th least proud. What? I thought New Jerseyans were all proud of their state. Maybe not so much. Other states that have no state pride: Rhode Island, Illinois, Mississippi, Louisiana, and the rest. Michigan? Who wouldn't be proud to live there? Outside of the ghetto areas, it's a great state. Utah! What a picturesque jewel of a state. You might be a little surprised to hear it, but Utah's got it going on economically. In fact, U.S. News ranked Utah's economy as the second best in the USA, citing the nation's lowest unemployment rate and its 5th best for business growth. They're opening up office space all over the state, and this is the nation's 3rd fastest growing state too, led by an influx of a young, educated workforce. Utah's also in the top 10 for healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Traffic's nothing, crime isn't terrible, it's just Utah. Utah, our second best state. All right, where's our best state in our fine United States for 2020? New Hampshire is. This is the 4th year in a row that we've ranked New Hampshire as the best state to live in, people. I think somebody in New Hampshire should probably send me a t-shirt. My email's in the About section on this channel. New Hampshire just kicks butt in many ways. To start, crime is the lowest in the country. When you look at the number of people killed in each state, it's pretty telling. Louisiana's way up here, and New Hampshire's way down here. New Hampshire also has the nation's least number of people living in poverty. That's a sign people are self-reliant and independent. That's America for you. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg to live here, and people are educated and really healthy. No place is perfect. While there's no income tax here, property taxes are through the roof. And it's not a very diverse place, where much of the population's old and white. But you can drive to Boston if you want to see diversity, I suppose. Anyways, if you're measuring all the factors that we as Americans say we want in a great place to live, things like a good economy, safety, quality schools, and relative sense of well-being, then this is it. Everybody, this is New Hampshire. New Hampshire, this is everybody. That's it, our best states to live in America in 2020. If you're dying to know, here are the worst states you can live in our country at the turn of the decade. If you live in a great state, consider yourself lucky. And if you don't, I'm sure your state has its virtues as well. But don't worry too much about what everybody else is doing. In a time when we're counting money and calories, we should probably be counting our blessings instead. The end. Hey guys, if you learned something new or you just like this video, make sure to like it. And if you really like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get all of our videos about what it's like to live in different places in America. Peace.